Well, I'm delighted to join you virtually. While my body is in Boston, my heart is in Berkeley with you. I'm at another conference, the topic of which is actually related to what we're talking about in your conference today. The conference here is on learning in the brain, deeper learning and learning to learn. And that actually has a lot to do with what both we're trying to do in California and what college admissions is struggling with as well. The nature of knowledge and learning has changed substantially from the old transmission curriculum. There are a couple of professors at Berkeley who actually been studying the growth of knowledge in the world. They found that between 1999 and 2003, there was more new knowledge created in the world than in the entire history of the world preceding. And if you think about the meaning of that, it means that young people in our society today will have to work with knowledge that hasn't been discovered yet, using technologies that haven't been invented yet, because technology knowledge is doubling every 11 months at this point, solving major problems that we have not managed to solve. So what does that actually have to do with school curriculum and admissions to college? The old transmission curriculum was about, memorizing and using algorithms to manage a body of knowledge and spit back the answers. We see that in our testing systems in the United States, where it's finding the one right answer out of 5 choices quite often, rather than an emphasis on analysis, problem solving, innovation, learning to learn. But in the K-12 system, I should say the pre-K-12 system in California, we have begun to move the curriculum in the direction of these 21st century skills, if you will. The Common Core State Standards were adopted back in 2010. Smarter Balanced Assessment, a new kind of test, has been adopted alongside those standards. It's a criterion reference test that uses open-ended questions as well as selected response. It includes performance tasks in which kids have to actually conduct an inquiry, research, solve a problem, and demonstrate their thinking in a much more open-ended way. It really aims to look at college and career readiness. Under the skillful leadership of my predecessor on the state board, Mike Kirst, the wheel is turning towards higher order thinking skills in California in the curriculum and assessment system. The other turn of the wheel in California is toward greater equity. The local control funding formula, which is much more progressive in the way funds are allocated, the local control accountability program, which requires the allocation of those funds to students who need them most, and our own studies at LPI on positive outlier districts that have used these resources in the new curriculum to create much higher performance for African American, Latino, and white students, show us that the way that these changes can occur involves a deepening of instruction and attention at the same time to equity of access to challenging curriculum, to the good stuff, as it were. Changes have also been occurring in higher education because of concerns about the nature and inequality in traditional college admissions tests. More than 950 colleges are now test optional. The nature of those tests has been critiqued because multiple choice tests don't flag many of the skills colleges feel they need and don't add much predictive value for admissions. Many studies over many years continue to find that grade point averages and class rank, which illustrate the diligence and perseverance and ongoing work and learning that students have engaged in, almost always are the most predictive elements of college success and persistence. In fact, a recent study of those test optional colleges found that there was no difference in the outcomes for the students who were admitted without scores and those admitted with scores, but where there were scores available, grade point average was always a better predictor of how they did in college than the test scores themselves. So Saul Geiser's studies here in California have been demonstrating that same kind of sort of support for persistence from high school records for many years. There are also concerns about the effects of the over-reliance on traditional tests on diversity. The norm reference design of traditional college admissions tests and the way in which the psychometrics for selecting items that discriminate occurs do produce reliable results that the most advantaged young people will get the highest scores. You'll hear more about that today. We see that in California, especially in the UC system. You'll hear later that the degree to which race predicts SAT scores has actually increased over time. You'll also hear about how the use of a criterion reference test like Smart or Balanced can produce more equitable outcomes for admissions. Indeed, Mikkel Kurlander's amazing research, which she'll talk about later, shows twice as many African American and Latino students falling in the top 10% on Smart or Balanced as on the SAT. So the field is at an inflection point overall in the nation as it is in California. From the perspective of the state board, we want to build a pre-K through 16 system that sends the right messages and offers the right supports to students for both developing and demonstrating the essential 21st century skills and to experience educational equity and opportunity. I am so glad you are assembled to figure this out today, and I look forward to hearing the results of your deliberations. Thank you.